Hello, welcome. I am so excited to be filming this. I've been meaning to do it forever, but we're going to move past that and just acknowledge that it's happening now. I'm very excited. We are going over all of the books I read in quote-unquote Q1 of the year. I'm going to be going over these in no specific order. My hope is to do spoiler-free information, and it's just kind of be like some rough opinion. Like, is this, who do I think this book is for? Blah, blah, blah. I am shocked by the amount I read so far this year. I'm doing it a little bit later than I'd hoped. For me, this is a lot. I think I've read 7 books so far this year, and I am in progress on 3 at the moment. So let's just hop into it. And I like to write a little synopsis of how I felt, just because I will forget everything unless the book was like an 11 out of 10 will stick in my head forever. So I'm gonna be referencing a good bit. I don't even know where to start. Okay, we're gonna start with an ebook because I don't want to like pick one and have it feel like that was a fave, because that's not it, so I'm doing this. First one is We Are the Weather by Jonathan Safran Foer, and I am a pretty big Lena Norm's fan on YouTube, and so I really want to read all the books that she's doing on a series called No Books on a Dead Planet. This was the first book of the series, and I know the whole point is like you don't have to read the book, but like I want to, and so I'm very behind. But I finally finished that one, and I honestly really enjoyed it. I will have a kind of similar sentiment over probably a lot of books, in that I've realized my patience has very much diminished when it comes to reading. And now if a book is over like 250 to 300 pages, I'm like, I don't have time for this. Especially if it's not like grabbing me. Like if I really am struggling to get through it, I'm like annoyed that it's as long as it is. So I had the slightest feeling it could have been like 2/3 the size. Not to say it was like extremely long, it was not, but just completely personal opinion. I could have done it like a little bit shorter, and my thing was at points it felt like there were few too many metaphors, like when reading a self-help book and they're saying the exact same thing 5 different ways, because the idea of the book is ultimately a very simple concept that you have to say in as many ways possible because you're trying to have a breakthrough moment with the reader. That's at points, not the whole book, at points what it felt like. So that's my only like slight criticism. Other than that, I actually really enjoyed the book. I highlighted more in that book than I've ever highlighted in a book that hasn't been for education purposes, like school. There are so many things I wanted to like write down and really sit with and think about for like days. There were things I wanted to like keep reading more into, and really like I will reread that book probably in like a few years time, because I think it's like a really good like check-in book, because I saw the book as being very like introspective, like from the writer. So it was really good, just like personal questions that like I also heavily am like, I should be asking myself these, or like, yeah, I do ask. It's just like a good reminder book almost. I just really liked it. It was really interesting. Next book is The Goodhouse by Peyton. Everything's gonna shine. Peyton Marshall. Cute. The Goodhouse. It's a somewhat futuristic US-based society. Basically, it's the idea that scientifically it was believed there was a gene that when found and like known to be in a person, that would possibly increase the chances of that person doing immorally wrong or even illegal activities. And so when criminals were detained and they had known children, their children, specifically male children, would be tested, and if they had said gene, they'd be sent to a boarding school type facility to live their basically entire childhood. I think the idea was they could be freed at 18, and they underwent like very close, you know, they were always being watched, they were being monitored, and the idea was they were being raised to be contributing members of society. But the boarding house type situation was called a Goodhouse. So like these boys would be sent to these good houses, and that's effectively their entire childhood, which is very sad. It's mysterious, it's true crimey. In my opinion, I've read a lot of like dystopian-esque, this isn't even dystopian, like it's so close to our current society, but like a slight step up in terms, it's a slight removal from it in the like what technology is used. You know, it's kind of like 1984, like everyone's being monitored-esque, because like that's the whole point of the facility. Basically, I'm gonna say the same thing I said about the last one, and I believe my quote was, why did it take over 300 pages to explain / tell a not very insane concept? And part of that might be because of the general circles of information I put myself in. This was mirroring a lot of like boarding school stories that unfortunately we've heard time and time again. Specifically, the author was referencing parts of the story off like the idea and stories of the 19th century Preston School of Industry, like it was directly tied to a boarding school story, but obviously like taken from that. So if you've like read any of them, it was kind of all the same, so it wasn't bad. I was just like, there's not really anything new here for me to be like, that was worth over 300 pages. I hate saying mean things. I'm not trying to say mean things, because it was like, it was good. I don't know. I'm like not trying to sound really harsh, and I'm probably sounding blunt, but it was just very long for not a super great payoff for me. Let's continue with the action before things get like sad. So I read book 1 of Fearless. I believe it is just called Fearless. I will be honest, I've had this book a very long time. I believe I got it in high school, and I thought this was the whole book. So I've never read it because it stressed me out how large it is. Turns out this is 3 books in one. Fearless is a gigantic book series. I didn't know that. Honestly, now that I say that, I can't remember anything. Is this like a Lucy situation? Like, is she, I think she doesn't experience fear. That's why she's fearless. Like, she chemically does not experience fear. Yeah, that's definitely what it is. That's not quite Lucy, but you know what I mean. So it's honestly, it is slower paced, but I think a lot of places were just saying like the first or second novel is, because it's like laying out all the characters, and there's like a ton more books. So it is a series. I could see this being a pretty good like teen series. There is some like vulgarity in it, just because she basically is like, I don't give a shit, I'm a teenager, right? Like that's kind of her mentality. More action, there's like fight scenes, she's a badass, like that's the whole point. So nothing groundbreaking, but it's pretty satisfying, and there's a ton of books. If like, this is a series I know I would have gotten into in high school, and like wanted all of them. Like I would have just kept reading it. So dun, dun, dun. Talking about another definitely preteen, if not teen novel, Ouija, a novel. I did not know the movie was based off this book. No, wait. Based on the screenplay. Okay, this is based off the screenplay. So, the movie was not based off this. This is a maybe teen. It's kind of dark. This is a teen, definitely geared book. Obviously, scary themed. Literally, it's titled Ouija. So it was so, I have never read a scary story so short. Like normally I'm used to like long, a bit shorter paced thrillers where it all comes together in the end and you're just like, oh my god, that was crazy, you know? I can't even think of an example right now. I know I read one like last fall. It got dark so fast. I mean so fast. It's also like all about teenagers, and it gets dark, so just a warning. But it's said in such simple words that like you get the story, but you didn't have to spend hours doing it. If you wanted something like shorter and just like, but still satisfying and creepy. And I'll be honest, I did not see it coming. Like I was thrown for a loop a little bit. Let's talk about how I don't like self-help books. I found this, I think, in a little library. I will definitely be giving it back. I technically cannot say I finished this, but I'm gonna act like I did because I was within like 30 pages of finishing it and then couldn't handle it anymore and was so annoyed and like overhearing the same sentiment every single page. And again, I think it's just this style of writing and like this category of books is not for me at all. I think there are people who could benefit from this idea of like, we gotta stop somewhere. You gotta cut yourself some slack. This is a lot. You're taking on too much. I think there is some real sentiment to that. But on the other hand, there are points where I think this takes it just like too far. Life is messy, and like at the end of the day, it's like, should we be valuing our relationships or like our work? Oh, and also for the main goal of the book to just say set boundaries for yourself, but like, again, that could have been an article. It could have been an email, you know, that could have been an email that just said, take a day off, set boundaries for yourself. Anyway, okay. I finally read, I read this 2 years ago. I read it on a Kindle and really struggled to get through it, and it went a little better this time. Okay, so I definitely went into this with a skewed opinion. I knew it would take like so many things to make me not like this because I just already enjoy the world, so I definitely have a skewed opinion. I do think the book makes a lot more sense than the movies. Makes a lot more sense, like the pacing does. Obviously I still enjoy the movies, do not get me wrong. I will continue to watch them, but I do think pacing wise and story wise this does make more sense. But it's just like a cute story, so I don't know, it's definitely not for everyone. It isn't, I would not call it like a classic that you have to read. I wouldn't agree with that, but it is very good, and if you're into any type of like fantasy, magic, world building, like I do think this is like a very major part of like what fantasy is today. So, you know, take it or leave it depending on what you're into. So let's do The Buddha in the Attic by Julie Otsuka. I realized I haven't said the author of any of the previous books. We'll put them on the screen, it's okay. This book it clearly used to be someone else's. Wow, it had hearts in it. And it was like from someone that's really cute. I love it. And someone spilled coffee on it. I love that too. It's very short, which I was very excited about. I think I read the entire thing like in one plane trip, which was fun. I read the back, the little like premise, and I was like, wow, this book is gonna be so sad. And I think I'm gonna love it, and that's kind of what happened. That is what happened. That's precisely what happened. It felt like skimming a history book or overhearing a lecture, but having a less analytical view and much more personal lens on a period of time, which I love. I love. You basically are skimming over a handful of women's lives who were mail order brides from Japan. Yes, from Japan to the San Francisco area. Honestly, so good. It's so good, and it's just skimming over. It's like a snapshot over time of all these women's lives and the families they build, the businesses they grow, and then all of a sudden they are pushed out of their homes, and it's like they're what we believe to be in the internment camps. And it's just it's so good. I mean, like, you're gonna feel so many emotions. It's sad, it's awful, it's fantastic, it's like, it's everything. Because human life is messy. Not to mention these women went through terrifying life choices to then move somewhere new, to then be literally not trusted by their own communities and eventually forced out. And it says that she's done another spellbinding novel about identity and loyalty and what it means to be an American in uncertain times. So it says she's also written... There was another book that was like, she's written, When the Emperor Was Divine. So I think I'm gonna look for that, and I think I'm gonna read it, because I loved this book. I'm so sorry for the beeping outside. Okay, last book. This is taking me so long. It's gonna be such a long video. This book, The Midnight Library by Matt Haig. I started following Matt Haig during early shutdown, lockdown times and heard about this book and people raved about it, and I genuinely almost debated going and buying it, which I never do. And then I was at a used bookstore and it wasn't in the used section, but they just finally had it in stock and I bought it because I was like, we love supporting our local little bookstores. So, wow. I will say of all the books, this is the one that I was like, I will be recommending this to people. I mean, there were others I enjoyed. I would say this and The Buddha in the Attic are the only two that I was like, oh, and We Are the Weather, that I was like, I will be recommending these to people. Like, I already know I'll be recommending these. All the others were like kind of whatever in the end, like grand scheme. Who would I talk about these books to, right? This one though, wow. And I feel like I've seen very similar reactions online. It's just a fantastic book for feeling so stuck and confused and being at a very like possibly pivotal moment in life, or feeling like you should, or like feeling like you just need a change. Like your life is like, oh my god, I've been doing the same thing for years. And like when you start to just kind of like lose the sense of why, like that, in my opinion, that's what this book is. I loved it. I think this is a book I'm gonna have to revisit like every few years, like genuinely, because it's just a book to like remind you why in such like a good human way. Oh, also, I wrote this down. A huge theme was how to successfully use time in your life when like, and like the idea of like you're always being pressured to like use your time well. You know, like the whole thing, like the fear of like how little time there is, or the fear you've already wasted time. It had a lot of those notes in it too, which is always something that I really get like stuck in my head about. So I wrote, I loved it in the sense it was reaffirming and quite positive overall. There were messages of self-discovery and self-love, etc. It's by no means groundbreaking. Clearly I haven't read any groundbreaking books. A term I probably need to stop using so much. But it's if anything, it's incredibly comforting. I could see this as being a book I read every few years, especially at pivotal moments in life. Okay, the only one I genuinely could not. I will be giving this back to like a used bookstore or a little free library or something. The History of Love by Nicole Krauss. I feel so bad because the concept to me sounded really nice and it was just gonna be like a cute like love, especially at an older age story, feeling kind of probably just like love isn't for me anymore, like, you know, the whole concept, if it's like I have no one after 40 or 50, so what's the point now? It's on the New York Times bestseller, so I guess it probably just the writing style wasn't for me, unfortunately. But it's not long. I feel like I need to keep emphasizing how short some of these books are. But yeah, if you're interested, I don't know. I think the writing, I just couldn't do it. But maybe I'll find something else by her that I will like more, so. And then just really quick, the one I am currently reading is Tell the Wolves I'm Home by Carol Rivka Brunt, which I am barely 60 pages in. I think I'm gonna love this book, at least so far. I hope it doesn't fall apart. I think I'm gonna love this book, so I'm very excited. Remember I just said I don't like self-help books? I'm attempting to read Becoming a Life Change Artist, 7 Creative Skills to Reinvent Yourself at Any Stage of Life by Fred Mandel and Kathleen Jordan. So I was like, okay, I can like work through it. Well, I made it 10 pages in and I haven't read it in like 3 months. But I'm gonna have it just in case I'm ever like, let's do some insightful thinking. And then because like I said, I am following Lena Norm's book series, No Books on a Dead Planet. I am hella behind, but I've started reading Consumed by Aja Barber. I hope I didn't say that wrong. It's been helpful for me to just document my thoughts at the end of a book, but I also like, I love talking about books I love sharing about books and like telling people what I think they should, like especially people in like my circles. I love like trying to think of books I think they would like. So yeah, that was long. I hope you enjoyed it. If you've read any of these, let me know what your thoughts were on them. I will always take book recommendations. Doesn't mean I might find them, but I'm always on the lookout for books. So that is all. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you on the next one. Bye.